Destiny Payton thought she'd faced every kind of heartbreak. Until her own child's name was dragged into Martell Holt's scandal. What happened next didn't just break her silence. It shattered everything we thought we knew about love and marriage. Huntsville. Destiny Payton never dreamed her own child would become tangled in the storm surrounding Martell Holt's explosive accusations. What began as a private moment of vulnerability soon spiraled into a very public heartbreak, leaving fans speechless and Destiny's world turned upside down. What really happened? How did her child end up in the center of love and marriage? Huntsville's most chaotic scandal yet. And more importantly, what does this reveal about Martell's deeper struggles that viewers rarely see? Stay close, because the truth behind this situation may completely reshape how you understand the drama unfolding off camera. Love and marriage. Huntsville has always thrived on high emotions and headline-making drama, but this time, the tension cuts deeper. Destiny Payton, once admired for her poise and perseverance, now faces one of the most painful and personal trials of her reality TV life. Being part of on-screen gossip or romantic feuds is one thing. Watching your child become part of the storyline is something else entirely. What makes this moment particularly unsettling is the speed at which private family matters spilled into the public eye. When Martell Holt's ongoing controversies suddenly intersected with Destiny's family life, it sent fans into a whirlwind of speculation. Social media lit up with questions, confusion, and outrage. How did it come to this? Why did a child have to be dragged into grown-up chaos? The answers, it seems, lie far beyond the cameras in the blurred lines between reality television and real life itself. How did it all unfold? And what role did Martell truly play in this painful chain of events? In this breakdown, we'll uncover the story step by step, tracing where it began, how Destiny's composure began to crumble in public, the timeline of Martell Holt's accusations, fan reactions, and the wider implications for love and marriage. Huntsville. What we've discovered may very well redefine Destiny Payton's future on the show. But before diving into the heart of this saga, one thing must be said clearly. This is not another petty cast feud or social media spat. This story strikes deeper because it involves a child caught in adult warfare. That's the line no one should cross. To understand why Destiny Payton's emotional walls finally broke after her child was pulled into Martell Holt's controversies, we have to rewind. In Huntsville, nothing happens by chance. Every scandal has roots in tension, distrust, and long-standing grudges. For years, Martell Holt has lived at the epicenter of controversy. From his highly publicized divorce from Melody Shari to relentless rumors of infidelity and disputes over finances, Martell has become one of the most polarizing figures in the franchise. Viewers either rally behind him or criticize his every move, but one truth remains consistent. Wherever Martell goes, chaos isn't far behind. Destiny Payton's journey, however, has been far more complicated. Once a trusted confidant of Melody, Destiny often stood by her through the crumbling of the Holt marriage. Yet, as seasons passed, her dynamic with both Martell and Melody grew strained. Fans began to notice subtle shifts. Was Destiny siding with Martell, or merely trying to stay neutral in a no-win situation? Opinions split, and her loyalty became a recurring topic of debate. Then came the turning point. As Martell's name continued surfacing in new controversies, from cheating allegations to parenting disputes and financial challenges, Destiny's name started appearing alongside his in conversations she never intended to join. What began as quiet speculation about her loyalty soon spiraled into online chatter that dragged her personal life, and eventually her child, into the spotlight. That's when the tone changed. Adult conflicts had crossed into sacred territory. In reality TV, it's common for castmates to exchange barbs or throw shade, but involving a child, that was something different. Something that hit Destiny where it hurt most. The internet immediately erupted with questions. Who mentioned her child? Why was her family being tied to Martell's chaos? Some fans pointed fingers at Martell, suggesting he had fanned the flames to deflect from his own issues. Others argued Destiny's close association with him made her an easy target for gossip. But this wasn't mere rumor mill noise. According to insiders and fan discussions, small but cutting remarks began to surface, linking Destiny's child to Martell's legal and personal troubles. Subtle at first, then more blatant, the comments spread like wildfire. And though Destiny tried to stay composed on and off camera, the emotional toll was unmistakable. Her breakdown wasn't just a moment of weakness. It was the culmination of months of humiliation and heartache. Fans who had seen Destiny as guarded and resilient suddenly saw a different side, a mother, stripped of her armor, overwhelmed by the intrusion into her child's innocence. It was a reminder that behind every scene and storyline are real people grappling with very real pain. So what exactly happened to push Destiny past her limit? According to multiple reports and social media chatter, it all began during one of Martell's heated public disputes. As usual, he was under scrutiny, facing backlash over custody issues with Melody, rumors of financial trouble, and whispers about his relationships beyond the cameras. Amid that storm, certain online comments began drawing connections between Martell's problems and Destiny's family. Some were subtle, seemingly harmless, but others were outright cruel. Whether those statements came from Martell himself, perhaps in a moment of anger or deflection, or from fans stitching together unverified claims, the damage was done. Destiny's private world had been ripped open. And that's where the heartbreak deepens. Reality TV stars know their personal lives will be examined, criticized, and at times, distorted. But no contract, no camera, and no storyline prepares a parent for seeing their child's name dragged into adult controversy. For Destiny Payton, this wasn't just another rumor, it was the moment everything changed. Children never agree to the spotlight. They don't sign contracts, chase fame, or prepare to be collateral damage in adult conflicts. So when Destiny Payton discovered that her child's name had been pulled into Martell Holt's chaos, it wasn't just another rumor, it was deeply personal, invasive, and humiliating. Sources close to her say the moment she learned of the comments, Destiny was blindsided. Imagine scrolling through social media, already accustomed to critiques about your friendships or loyalty, only to find strangers dissecting your child's connection to a scandal you never caused. For Destiny, that was the breaking point. Witnesses describe her reaction as raw and unfiltered, the kind of emotional unraveling that strips away the tough exterior she's known for. But the fallout didn't stop there. Once the public realized her child had been mentioned, social media went into overdrive. Supporters quickly came to Destiny's defense, calling out Martell and anyone else responsible for crossing a sacred boundary. Others, however, seized the moment to push conspiracy theories, claiming Destiny knew more about Martell's private dealings than she was letting on. What should have ended the conversation instead ignited even more speculation. That's the cruel irony of it all. Destiny's child had nothing to do with Martell's actions, yet the association cast a shadow over both of them. Suddenly, her parenting was questioned, her friendships were dissected, and her standing on love and marriage. Huntsville felt more fragile than ever. Interestingly, the cast's reactions spoke volumes. Some of Destiny's peers were vocal, expressing empathy and making it clear that children should be entirely off-limits. Others remained conspicuously silent, a silence that fans interpreted as indifference or, worse, quiet approval. And if this show has taught viewers anything, it's that silence can sometimes scream louder than words. So why did this happen now? How did Martell's turmoil spread so far that it reached someone completely outside his battles? The answer seems to lie in timing, fractured alliances, and the way public perception is used as a weapon in Huntsville's ongoing drama. The bigger question, however, is chilling. Was the mention of Destiny's child a careless slip or a calculated move designed to break her spirit in front of the world? On reality TV, nothing is ever as innocent as it appears. Every feud, every headline, and every outburst often hides layers of strategy, manipulation, and quiet power plays. When Destiny's child was tied to Martell Holt's allegations, it didn't feel accidental. The deeper you look, the more it resembles a deliberate move, one fueled by motives that extend far beyond what was shown on camera. Let's start with Martell himself. Over the years, he's become known for using distraction as a defense mechanism. Whenever the spotlight grows too harsh, whether it's over infidelity, custody battles with Melody, or financial trouble, Martell has a pattern of shifting attention elsewhere. Sometimes he redirects the narrative toward his ex. Other times, he attaches himself to other castmates caught in their own turmoil. Destiny, unfortunately, may have become one of those diversions. Think about it. Destiny's role on the show has always been precarious. She entered love and marriage, Huntsville following a short-lived marriage. Her storyline revolving around rebuilding her life while battling criticism for not revealing enough of herself on camera. That persistent narrative that she's guarded or withholding made her an easy target. If Martell needed to divert attention, all he had to do was let speculation about Destiny's child linger long enough for the fans to run with it. But some viewers believe there's more to it than just Martell's self-preservation. They argue that the show's shifting dynamics created the perfect storm for Destiny's pain to become entertainment. After all, reality TV thrives on emotional tension. When one storyline fades, another must rise to keep viewers hooked. Destiny, with her privacy and already strained relationships, may have been positioned as the next scapegoat. Then there's the question of loyalty. Destiny's friendship with Melody has been scrutinized ever since cracks appeared between them. Some accuse her of betraying Melody by staying too close to Martell post-divorce. Others insist she was simply trying to stay neutral in a war that wasn't hers. But neutrality rarely survives in the world of reality TV. Audiences demand clear sides, and producers know how to amplify that pressure. Was Destiny's Child dragged into the mess as a way to push her into choosing? An even darker theory suggests that certain cast members or even fans may have deliberately used Destiny's vulnerability against her by linking her child to Martell's scandal. They struck at her most sensitive point, ensuring an emotional reaction that would make powerful television. And that theory gains traction when you consider how quickly the story spread. Within hours, social media was ablaze, dissecting every word, speculating on motives, and debating whether Destiny herself played any role in the chaos. It felt less like gossip and more like gasoline poured on an already raging fire. And what about the producers? That's the question many fans and critics have been asking since Destiny's breakdown became one of the most discussed moments in Love and Marriage Huntsville history. While there's no concrete proof that production deliberately fueled this particular twist, longtime viewers have noticed a consistent pattern. The show seems to thrive most when emotions are raw, tears are real, and cast members are pushed beyond their comfort zones. In reality television, pain often equals ratings. The industry has long operated on the unspoken rule that authenticity, no matter how uncomfortable, keeps audiences glued to their screens. The more blurred the line between real-life suffering and on-camera storytelling becomes, the higher the engagement. And Love and Marriage Huntsville has never been an exception. When Destiny's composure cracked, what should have been a private moment of human heartbreak transformed into a viral talking point. Clips circulated online, headlines popped up overnight, and social media was flooded with commentary dissecting every facial expression, every tear, and every word she managed to say between sobs. For the network, that kind of reaction translates into visibility, discussion, and most importantly, numbers. That's why some believe producers didn't step in, not out of cruelty, but out of calculation. Reality TV often walks a tightrope between documentation and manipulation. On one side lies storytelling, on the other, exploitation. Destiny's pain became the perfect storm, unscripted, emotional, and impossible to look away from, whether anyone intended it or not. Her breakdown delivered precisely the kind of television moment executives dream about. Still, it's hard not to question the ethics. Should a mother's anguish over her child being dragged into gossip ever be considered entertainment? Where do networks draw the line between compelling storytelling and emotional harm? These questions linger, not just for Destiny but for every reality star who's ever had their trauma turned into a storyline. Behind the scenes, several theories emerged. Some crew members reportedly felt uncomfortable watching the situation unfold but had little authority to intervene. Others believed that stepping in might have disrupted the flow of the episode, a term often used in production to justify keeping the cameras rolling during sensitive moments. And while no one can say for sure whether producers exploited the situation intentionally, the outcome speaks volumes. Destiny's most vulnerable moment became a centerpiece of the season. Whether this entire ordeal was Martell's doing, a ripple effect of shifting alliances behind closed doors, or a calculated setup designed to keep viewers emotionally invested, the result was equally devastating. Destiny's already fragile reputation took another hit. In an environment where perception often matters more than truth, once the audience turns on you, redemption becomes an uphill battle. Her relationships, both on and off camera, fractured further. Castmates who once offered support began to distance themselves. Some feared association, worried that taking a side might drag them into the storm. Others, caught up in their own storylines, chose self-preservation over solidarity. The isolation was palpable. Destiny, who had entered the show as a resilient, composed woman rebuilding after a failed marriage, now found herself cast in a far more vulnerable light. A mother under scrutiny, a friend accused of disloyalty, and a woman seemingly cornered by forces larger than herself. And through it all, the most painful part was what no one could undo. Her child had become part of the narrative. No matter how unintentional, that association left a lasting mark. It's one thing to repair your public image as an adult. It's another to protect your child's privacy. Once their name has been spoken aloud in a storm of controversy, the aftermath was relentless. Blogs analyzed every detail, YouTubers turned the situation into hour-long commentaries, and fans debated endlessly on message boards about who was at fault. Some sympathized with Destiny, calling her a victim of manipulation and poor production ethics. Others argued she should have anticipated the risks that come with reality TV, but few seemed to consider the psychological toll of seeing one's private pain repackaged for entertainment. Even within the cast, the reactions spoke volumes. A handful of her peers publicly defended her, acknowledging that whatever tensions existed among adults, children should remain untouchable territory. They condemned the crossing of that boundary, calling it low, unacceptable, and a step too far. Their words were a reminder that even in the ruthless ecosystem of reality television, there are still moral lines, or at least, there should be. Yet, for every cast member who spoke out, there were just as many who said nothing at all. That silence, heavy and deliberate, became its own form of commentary. Fans noticed it immediately. Message filled with speculation. Why weren't certain people defending Destiny? Did they secretly agree with what happened? Or worse, were they complicit in letting it unfold? In the world of love and marriage, silence is rarely a sign of neutrality. It's often strategic, a way to preserve alliances, avoid backlash, or quietly benefit from someone else's downfall. The absence of solidarity from key figures only deepened Destiny's sense of betrayal. It's one thing to face public scrutiny, it's another to realize that those you once called friends are quietly watching from the sidelines, perhaps even enjoying the spectacle. And for Destiny, that realization may have hurt more than any rumor. She wasn't just battling gossip, she was confronting a social hierarchy built on optics, loyalty, and survival. In that sense, the fallout wasn't just about one scandal, it was about the unspoken rules that govern reality TV itself. In shows like Love and Marriage, Huntsville, vulnerability can be both your greatest strength and your biggest weakness. When cast members share their personal lives, audiences feel connected. But when that vulnerability turns into ammunition used against you in confessional interviews or edited storylines, it becomes a weapon. And Destiny learned that lesson in the harshest way possible. Her breakdown became more than a viral clip, it became a symbol of how reality television blurs the boundaries between truth and performance. The cameras captured a woman reaching her emotional limit, but what viewers didn't see were the sleepless nights, the conversations off camera, the fear of losing her dignity and her peace. For fans who've followed the show from the beginning, this incident sparked broader discussions about responsibility. Should networks provide better mental health support for their cast members? Should there be stricter ethical guidelines when family members, especially children, are involved? The conversation stretched far beyond Huntsville, touching on the larger issue of how far entertainment should go in pursuit of engagement. Still, as the dust began to settle, one undeniable truth remained. Destiny Payton's pain was real. It wasn't scripted, edited, or exaggerated for drama. It was the heartbreak of a mother who saw her private world invaded, her reputation questioned, and her child's name dragged into something that never should have touched them. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of it all is how quickly the cycle moves on. In the world of reality television, today's scandal becomes tomorrow's storyline, and the public's attention shifts to the next controversy. But for Destiny, the emotional aftermath lingers. Long after the cameras stop rolling, she has to continue living in the same town, raising her child, rebuilding her peace, all while carrying the shadow of what millions witnessed. The silence that followed wasn't just from her castmates or producers. It was from the industry itself, an industry that rarely pauses to reflect on the human cost of its most sensational moments. Whether that silence stems from complicity, exhaustion, or simple indifference, it serves as a grim reminder, in the pursuit of compelling television, empathy is often the first casualty. In the end, Destiny's ordeal exposed more than just the cracks in her friendships or Martell's manipulations. It revealed the mechanics of a system that profits from pain. It showed how quickly vulnerability can be weaponized, and how silence, whether born from fear or strategy, can echo louder than any confrontation. Destiny may eventually recover from the scandal, find new strength, and reclaim her narrative. But this chapter will always stand as a stark example of what happens when reality TV stops being about storytelling and starts consuming the very people who give it life. And that's where Destiny now finds herself, isolated, vulnerable, and forced to navigate a storyline she never agreed to. Once seen as a loyal friend and strong mother, she's now portrayed as conflicted, exposed, And alone. Was she intentionally dragged into Martell's mess to shield him, to punish her, or simply to keep the cameras rolling? The truth may be a little of all three. And that leads us to the next turning point. How fans reacted once Destiny's pain became impossible to ignore.